Hello, and welcome to another NABBW Financial Podcast. Tonight, I'm with regular guest Pam Sams to discuss our very important November topic, her year-end financial checklist for 2021. The end of the year brings us a logical opportunity to make sure you're still on track with your financial goals. And that's part of the reason that we're doing the call. But beyond that, I'm sure that Pam tells her clients that the end of the year is a great time to revisit your finances and look ahead. It's a logical time to review your accounts and investments and get ready for the new year. And with tax season around the corner, reviewing your portfolio and personal finances now could potentially, maybe, help you reduce your tax liability. But this year in particular, which I've heard some people refer to as the year of the Great Resignation, many have brought some, I think that has brought some changes to many people's financial plans. I'd never heard the term Great Resignation before, but I love that term. And of course, that moniker refers to how in 2021, millions of Americans took an opportunity to rethink their careers, go for that big promotion, or land a new job. A career shift is a big opportunity, but can also mean big changes for your financial picture. And if your career pivoted in 2021, you may have a few loose ends to tie up before the year's end. But even if you didn't make a career pivot, this is the time to recalibrate and set yourself up on firm financial footing for next year. If you've already retired, you also have a few things to consider as we approach the end of the year and prep our finances for 2022. Markets were dynamic throughout the year, driven by a robust recovery from pandemic-driven lows in 2020. Prices and inflation expectations have also risen in step with the buzzing economy. The inflation just has amazed me, and I want to talk more about that later, and Pam probably does too. As Congress reconvenes, there's some uncertainty swirling about the potential new tax law changes. So a lot of reasons to conduct a quick check-in on your retirement goals and the financial plan you've crafted to achieve them. And now is an opportune time to check in with your financial advisor or representative to tie up those loose ends from 2021 and prep for 2022. So Pam, you are very timely in suggesting tonight's topic and in bringing us your list of 10 important items to consider as part of your year-end planning. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself with discussing what we're talking about. Audience, before we dive into Pam's year-end checklist, let me properly introduce this call. I'm Ann Holmes, your moderator and the boomer-in-chief of the National Association of Baby Boomer Women, an organization dedicated to educating and empowering women at midlife and beyond. And with me to help us make the best possible year-end financial decisions is Pamela J. Sams, BFA, CRPC, MBA, and trusted advisor to professional women. Pam is a chartered retirement planning counselor and NABBW's retirement planning associate. An expert in personal finance, Pam is president of Jackson Sams Wealth Strategies in Herndon, Virginia, and a monthly guest who covers important information related to money and financial planning. Welcome everyone to our Zoom call. We're glad that you've joined us for this important and informative call. And before we can launch into tonight's discussion, I need to play a quick audio clip just to keep us legal. And I had it called up, but of course I talked so long it disappeared. So here it is.
Securities offered through Securities America Incorporated, a registered broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Securities America Advisors Incorporated, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Pamela Sams, investment advisor representative. Jackson Sams Wealth Strategies, Securities America Incorporated, and all other entities named are separate entities.
Thanks for joining us again, Pam, especially because even as we find ourselves pulled toward the typical year-end holiday festivities, it's still hugely important for us to make sure we wrap up our financial year properly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I always recommend this call every year, especially during November, December. I always tell people before they start, carving the turkey or wrapping the presents and bringing out the eggnog, they need to check in on their finances before they end the year, because there's so many things that occur that we need to address and kind of wrap it up with a nice tiny bow, or big bow in that instance, kind of that gift motif, so to speak. and then really just close out the year so we can start the year anew with fresh finance, a fresh view on your finances.
Mhm.
So, I really enjoy this time of the year so we can really get to that. I know we usually talk about the how to start your year financially right, but you do have to end it appropriately as well.
All right, good point. Always important to end it before you start a new, because otherwise things just get way too confused. So let's get
Exactly.
to our discussion. And as I've already alluded to, Pam, you have 10 points that you'd like to cover
Mhm.
tonight, beginning with a financial report card.
Yeah, so this is where you take that assessment. What happened? We had 12 months in 2021. I'm sure, it was quite different than what we experienced in 2020. And hopefully, most people fared for the better than we did last year. But nonetheless, a financial report card is really taking an assessment of what went well, what didn't go so well, and what do I need to change for the next year. So really giving yourself a score in all of those different areas. And I do have a financial report card that I can share with your listeners and your readership as well, to really kind of go through and give yourself kind of A through D or F or whatever you want
Okay.
to give yourself. But it'll give you a chance to really say what happened throughout the year, where do I need to improve, what type of things that I need to do better for, as you're planning for the new year, and take an assessment. So really the financial report card gives kind of a state of the union of what happened throughout that 12 months that you planned at the beginning of January, see where you are November, December of end of the year. Did things go according to plan? If not, I know a lot of people, especially last year, things went off the rails very quickly.
Mhm.
And so 2021 uh, hopefully was an improvement, but you need to see, did you go off on the rails at some point during the year? Did you get back on? If you didn't get back on, where do I need to focus in on and making some adjustments for the next year? So taking an assessment would be that financial report card that I mentioned before.
All right. And you said that you have a form that people can use so that they don't leave parts out by
So they
accident.
don't leave parts out. Yes, yes. And I will provide that to our listeners and your readership as well at
That
the end of
sounds
this call.
great.
Mhm.
Excellent. Well, point number 2 is cash management.
Yes, cash management is always, I always come up with this, and in our phone calls, is that budget, 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 budget is
Mhm.
always the top of my list. So this the same thing as part of your financial report card. I would assume you need to look at your cash management. How did it go in terms of what you were spending money on? Did you accumulate any credit card debt during this time period? You want to basically make sure you don't have any a lot of accumulated debt going into the holidays, because I'm sure plastic will come out of your wallet during this time of the year as
Right.
well. So you want to make sure you have an understanding of where you stand from a debts perspective, not putting on any more than 30% utilization for your credit when you go to use that, and then really just taking another assessment of your budget as you go into this part of the year as well. You also need to budget accordingly to what you need
Mhm.
to put. What are you going to pay for holiday spending? The Thanksgiving is next week, so people are getting out and about now. So people are hosting Thanksgiving. That includes more groceries that you got to buy. So you need to really understand where your money's going, especially during this time of the year, because you may have increased expenses for gift giving,
Mhm.
extra holiday parties, Thanksgiving feast, things like that. So having an understanding of where you are from a cash management standpoint, your budget, your spending, and then also how much credit that you're using as well. And back to that financial report card, if you're not happy to where how your spending is going throughout this 12 months that you had, um, what do you need to do differently for next year? Do I want to incorporate a budget that could be either through a regular spreadsheet formula, it can be through an app, it can be, through a lot of different ways that you want to keep it. But whenever I mention budget to people, they kind of shy away a little
Mhm.
bit. And like I said, I always mention it in this call. We probably haven't had a call forever and without me mentioning the importance of having a budget and watching your spending. So this is no different. It's really understanding kind of how your cash works. And then also savings. Do you have enough
Mhm.
in your cash reserves or your emergency fund? A lot of people got caught short of sport, especially during last year and this year, where not having enough savings or adequate savings in the event that something happens where you either furloughed or you may have been downsized out of a job and you were unable to find a job right away. That's when an emergency fund becomes ever so important for you to
Mhm.
do. So really just take an assessment again with your emergency fund, your debt and your debt utilization, and then also your spending and your budget.
Especially important as we get into this season of gifting and buying things, as you already have alluded to, because keeping in mind that all the retailers, their job is to get us to spend the money. They're professionals at getting the money to come out of our wallet. So we need to uh, be as professional as we can be about sticking to those budgets.
Exactly. I know as anybody, I opened up my email, I guess 2 days ago actually, and there's Black Friday sales already happening.
Right.
So we have to be more cognizant of that, especially they're trying to entice and stimulate, of course, people doing a little bit more spending. So be cognizant of that. I'm not, trying to take anybody's joy away for buying presents, but just make sure you have a set budget that you're going to spend on gift giving and the other things that happen throughout this holiday season.
Excellent. Now, point number 3 on your list, investments.
Yes, this is also that time of year where you need to take an assessment of where you are with your investment strategy. Again, starting in January, and now here we are in November, and of course, ending the year with December. What happened to your portfolio during 2021? Now, as we know, the stock market has done tremendous growth throughout the last, I would probably say 18 months. We had a little bit of a downturn, of course, last year due to COVID. But then after that, things start to ramp back up. So most people's portfolios are probably a little bit out of whack, I would say right now. And this is the time of year to take an assessment. Do I need to rebalance my portfolio? And I always say the answer is yes. So
Mhm.
before you do the gift giving and the eggnog and the tree and all of that, you want to make sure you look at a portfolio rebalance with your advisor, or if you need to do it on your own, but really looking at what happened at the beginning of January, where we are now. Am I overweighted in certain asset classes? And if so, how do I reposition it so I'm back to where I need to be from an asset allocation standpoint? So you need to rebalance your portfolios during this time of the year. And also take an assessment of, are you closer to your goals? Of course, like I said, the stock market has performed fairly well during this year.
Mhm.
But if you have particular goals and you have investments that are allocated for those goals, take an assessment of, is your portfolio growing properly? If not, then you want to check your asset allocation mix and also optimize your portfolio in order to stimulate the growth as well. Or you may have been too conservative in your allocation that you're not reaching your goals, or you could have been a little bit over aggressive. So this is the time to take an assessment of rebalancing and then also re-optimizing your portfolios to make sure it's in alignment with your time horizon and your goals to achieve success with your investments.
All right. Point number 4 is kind of a two-part. You're talking about retirement planning. And
Mhm.
the first thing you want to talk about is the RMD.
Yes, that dreaded RMD that a lot of people need to take. And the age has changed to age 72. So if you've aged into the RMD status, age 72 this year, you need to take a required minimum distribution. That's what RMD stands for, by December 31st of this year. Uh, Last year, they suspended the RMDs. So make sure that you are aware that you do need to reactivate that. So some people did automatic suspension for last year and turned it off. That doesn't mean that it's automatically going to restart. So make sure you check with your investment firm or wherever your monies or IRAs are, to make sure that it is reactivated so you don't miss that RMD by December 31st of this year. So you need to you need to take that by the end of the year. So the RMDs, and then the other kind of the two part with the retirement planning is your employer plan contributions.
Mhm.
So making sure that you have maximized your retirement plan if you intended to maximize your retirement plan. So we still probably have a few paychecks in the year to see where you are. So take an assessment of what your payroll or your pay stub looks like. And if you're near the numbers, maybe you allocate a little bit more towards your retirement plan so you can maximize your 401k or 403b or TSP, whichever retirement plan that you have, to take advantage of maximizing your employer plan contributions as well. And if you have and if you've reached over the age of 50, you're actually able to put in more into your retirement plan as well. You always want to check with HR to sign up for that. If you're going to age into kind of the over 50 to take advantage of the catch up, that's what it's called, at the beginning of the year, then you want to visit HR to make sure that they implement that at the beginning of the year so you can take advantage of the full maximization and then also the catch up if you're over age 50.
All right. Point number 5, taxes.
Yes, everybody loves taxes.
And they're always there. They're never going to go away.
They're never going to go away, but this is the time that you want to check as well to make sure that you have allocated enough for taxes. You know, your W-4, probably a little later for W-4 adjustments, but you want to make sure you go back and do that at the beginning of the year if in fact your exemptions were lower than you expected and you weren't having enough taxes taking out of your paycheck. So W-4 adjustment should be done, you know, at least mid-year to take an assessment. And then you want to double check on that towards the end of the year as well, going into a new year to see if you need to make some adjustments for the next year. And there's been so many, you know, tax law changes over the past, year and a half that you don't want to get caught with some of the things that have changed, standard deductions and how much you can contribute to your retirement plans. So just know the lay of the land when it comes to taxes, and of course consult your tax advisor is what you want to do when it comes to your taxes. Just a little bit about taxes and investments. Same thing with your taxes during this time of the year. Maybe you want to do what they call tax loss harvesting. So if you had positions in your investment portfolios, the investments outside of your what they call qualified plans, which would be your IRA money and 401k, you want to see if you can sell some positions at a loss and then maybe take some gains at the same time. So it's basically taking what they call tax loss harvesting. So it's taking a little bit of gains and then using some of the loss to offset your tax liability. So you want to consult again your tax advisor if you wanted to take advantage of any tax loss harvesting, but that kind of goes in hand with the investment portion, but only inside of what they call non-qualified accounts, not your retirement, not your qualified money, which would be employer retirement plans and then IRA money.
All right. Then charitable gifting is an important thing to be doing if we're able to, and a lot of charities that wouldn't exist if there wasn't charitable gifting, but it's probably something that you're going to tell us we need to look at and see if it's balanced.
Yes, and when you're doing, charitable giving, a lot of the tax laws have changed in terms of how much you're able to deduct for charities. But this would be the time of the year that people are more charitably inclined. So as you're giving money or gifting money through charities, to make sure you keep all of your receipts. So you're able to clarify who you gave money to, of course. And then this is maybe a time of the year where you want to look at certain gifting strategies for charities. There's what they call a qualified charitable deduction. So for people who, back to kind of the RMDs, people who need to take an RMD, but they don't necessarily need the RMD, there's a way to do what they call a qualified charitable deduction. So you can get, basically, you're giving your RMD to charity for a tax break. That's what the qualified charitable deduction is. So you want to take a look to see if you're in that area and take advantage of charitable gifting through there, through your RMD. So that could be one of the gifting or charitable types of things that you want to take a look at, in addition to, of course, your regular donations that you have and keeping the receipts for that. And then, of course, as you start doing your taxes, making sure you have verification that you have contributed to or donated to said charity. So you want to keep all of your receipts. And then, like I said, if you want to use your RMD to gift to a charity, you would use that through the qualified charitable deduction.
All right. All right. Well, moving along, number 7 is something that's dear to all of our healthiness. I shouldn't try to ad lib here. I should just stick to what it says. But healthcare. We want to talk about healthcare because we really need to make sure that we have the proper situation with healthcare as we end this year and go forward.
Exactly. And this is actually open enrollment for Medicare to make any Medicare adjustments, Medicare Advantage, or go from Medicare back to Medicare or to a Medicare Advantage, or vice versa. So a lot is going on between October and December for Medicare if you've aged into Medicare. This is also the time where open enrollment is occurring in most people's employer through their employer. So you want to review your healthcare benefits. Things are always changing when it comes to your benefits. I would suggest not doing a set it and forget it. There may be plans that come on that may be a little bit more affordable, have more features or benefits available to you. So always take a look, even if you don't make any changes to your benefit, just take a look and see if there's any differences with your healthcare plan. We've also talked in various conversations about this is also the time period where your drug plan usually kind of changes. If you're in a Medicare situation, the formularies change and they send notification out before the end of the year. So if you're in a Part D program with your Medicare, just double check the formulary. You don't want the nasty surprise, as I always mention in January, when you go to the pharmacy to refill your prescriptions and something came off of the formulary that you didn't look at that notification that came in the mail for that. So again, look out for anything that's healthcare related, especially for Medicare during this open enrollment season and during the notification season that they're changing basically formularies for drug plans. We had talked a little bit about, or I sent to you before, and the increase in Part B premiums that are coming down the pike for 2022. So making adjustments accordingly for and your Social Security benefit that you will receive, because now your Part B premium is increased a little bit more. So just take an assessment of where healthcare could increase next year, but really taking an assessment as well on what happened for 2021. If you had a healthcare flexible savings account, you need to make sure that you have all of the claims, not claims,
Mhm.
but that you have actually used
Used
or
it.
had the services during this time of the year before December 31st. You have until March basically to go ahead and do the claims, but you have to have the service done before December 31st of this year. Same thing with that. Now, with HSAs, those are basically attached to a high deductible healthcare plan. You can roll over your HSA contributions, but then again, any services need to be done before the end of the year, so you can go ahead and use the claims
Mhm.
for the HSAs. So a lot going on with healthcare to evaluate for yourself. If you're Medicare eligible and you need to make adjustments and changes, October 15th to December 7th is when you could do that. So we're still in open enrollment to make adjustments or changes to your Medicare. Know that next year your Part B premium is going to go up, and take an assessment of maybe fitting that into your budget, because now it's a little bit more. Uh, Double check to see whatever comes in the mail regarding your health care, and see if there's any changes to the formulary. Like I said, you don't want any nasty surprises in January as it relates to your prescription drug program. And then, of course, your healthcare flexible savings account, and then your HSAs. Just make sure you have all services done before the end of the year, so you can make those claims and use your dollars accordingly.
I think you just explained to me something. Steve told me the other day that he needed to make an eye appointment. So he
Mhm.
called his eye doctor. I recommended mine, but he said, no, 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 I like mine better. So he called his that he's been with for ages.
Mhm.
And they told him that, he could get an appointment in February. And I'm going, how in the heck do you have to wait that long for an eye appointment? But it's the HSAs. It's people that are saying,
It's
I've got to get
people.
that
Yep.
appointment in before the year is over. So you've explained that to me, Pam, because I could not understand. Why did he have to wait so long?
Yes, why do you have to wait so long for our? Yes, everybody is getting their doctor's appointments in between now and the end of the year. It's those HSA people that is preventing Steve from getting his
Right,
his eye appointment until
right,
February.
right. Well, you think about countries that are not as fortunate as we are, and we know that they have to wait long times to get medical care. But we
Mhm.
tend to think that in the United States, you can decide I need health care and you can get it right as soon as you decide. And I was
Yeah.
just not used to waiting 3 months to go to the eye doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Specialists generally, you
Mhm.
understand. Sometimes there's a couple of months, but eye doctors, yeah, you just usually used to popping in and getting that done fairly quickly.
Right.
So yeah,
Well,
interesting.
thanks for clarifying that because I was mystified. But let's move on to point number 8 because it's one that I think is as important as any of the others that you've got on your list, and that is life insurance.
Yes. For some reason, this always pops up on the list too, but life insurance is always very important, that to take an assessment. And
Mhm.
what I mean here is really looking at, kind of tied into what we'll be talking about, some life events. But if things change throughout 2021, did you get divorced? Did you get married? Did things happen that would warrant you making adjustments or changes to your life insurance? Just taking a reassessment. Lately, I have been getting a lot of interest for people who want life insurance or life insurance quotes. So I think it also, this kind of landscape that we're in with COVID, people are a
Mhm.
little bit more aware of mortality. So
Mhm.
I think I'm getting more conversations about life insurance and having adequate protection for life insurance. But this is also that kind of that back to that financial report card that I mentioned at the beginning, is taking an assessment. One of them is looking at life insurance. Do I have adequate coverage? Do I have enough? Looking at mortgage protection, which is basically a form of life insurance. If you want your house paid off in the event that you pass away, would you have enough adequate insurance to do so? So it's really taking an assessment of where you are, filling in the gaps where you need to be, and how are you going to do that? And especially now, because people are, you want to take a look at, did something happen where now I may not be eligible for life insurance? A couple of cases recently is that people came to me because um, you're basically as healthy as you're going to be, but sometimes people run into situations where they have a little bit of health history, health issues, and
Mhm.
so they're coming to say, hey, can I get additional life insurance even though I have some health issues? And there are specialized cases, of course, that you need to look at, particular carriers that take a little bit harder cases. But people are being aware that they need more, and they need to assess where they are from a health standpoint. Like I said, where you are healthy wise is the healthiest going to be after you start aging, as you know,
Mhm.
and things start to fall apart on us.
Right.
So we may not
Yes.
be as eligible for life insurance. So don't take your life insurance for granted. Take an assessment on, do I need to get more coverage now before things happen? Do I get a permanent policy where the premiums will stay relatively the same? I don't have to go through underwriting again. It also builds a little bit of cash value for you. So all of your insurance programs, I mentioned just life insurance, but you want to take an assessment of your auto insurance and your homeowner insurance and disability and long-term care. That has also been one of the areas that I've gotten a lot of requests for recently as well. And November being actually Long-Term Care Awareness Month, I have been talking about that quite a bit to people, which is
Mhm.
really figuring out, what do I need to do in the event that I need nursing home care?
Right.
We've had conversations before, and and my mother's in a facility. So, really looking at having adequate coverage to take care of yourself if you need to go into a nursing home and or have a nurse come into your home to take care of you. So
Mhm.
really just taking an assessment of all of your insurance programs is also a good thing to do towards the end of the year. Do I have adequate coverage? If I don't have coverage at all, do I need it? And then how do I fill in the gap if I do need to do so?
How do you handle, I'm going to deviate a little bit from getting on to the next
Mhm.
question. How do you handle explaining to people when you're talking about that, the long-term care or care, do you have enough to cover being in a nursing home? People, I don't think, unless they have faced it, because like
Mhm.
you and I have done with our parents,
Mhm. Yeah.
how do you explain to them how much that costs? I mean, my mother was paying something like $8,000 a month.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And you really just break down the average cost of what it is, kind of on a national basis. And then you look at, multiplying that time, the average nursing home stay is generally between 3 and they say 6 years. And
Mhm.
then multiplying that monthly, and then multiplying that times 6 at maximum, and then
Mhm.
you can see, and then you subtract it. It's like, okay, if you were not covered through a long-term care policy or transferring that risk to a third party, this is how much you would have to pay out of pocket, and this is how much it would have to be deducted from your basically your nest egg that you have
Mhm.
accumulated for
Right.
retirement. I mentioned before, and in previous calls, Fidelity came out with a study and said you need probably an additional 275 to 300,000 just for healthcare costs in retirement.
Right.
That's long-term care, it's Medicare Part B premiums, it's co-pays, it's all of that. And most people on this side of the equation probably only have, maybe 500, 600,000 of their whole retirement. And then you tell somebody that they need an additional
Right.
275 for these things.
Mhm.
But that's when you present it, or the way I present it, and say, okay, dollar for dollar, if we were to exchange you paying for a long-term care premium versus you have to come out of pocket $300,000 for care, it's basically a no-brainer at that point. Do
Mhm.
I try to change little smaller dollars for big dollars later down the road? So it's really emphasizing subtracting that big lump sum out of your whole retirement bucket. And then that's how people are able to kind of see the big picture as it relates to um, long-term care.
Mhm. All right, good to bring that out because I just think that I was floored. My mother was in long-term care, assisted living. It wasn't officially nursing home, it was assisted living, but still for many, many years. And when I wasn't in charge of her finances, but I started toward the end to hear from the people that were in charge what the monthly costs were. And I was just shocked because, I understand that these places, some of them are actually having trouble staying in business. So they have to have the money that they are charging, but it's just not something that I think people understand how much the cost is.
Yeah, exactly. And as you know too, there's kind of the bottom of the barrel, then there's the middle of the road, and then there's high, and so even with the care that you can get, top of the line is going to cost you much more. And a lot of these places are quite understaffed because they don't pay a whole lot in addition to that, and then you have an influx of people. So yeah, it's one of those things. I think that's kind of the another shoe that's going to drop as baby boomers start to age into care, on how are we going to deal with kind of the healthcare costs, long-term care costs for seniors eventually in society.
It's really going to be a big topic because I know that when my mother and stepfather moved into this aging in place facility and they were living, independently, but in this facility, they were telling me how smart it was that they were doing this and what a wonderful place this was. It was top notch, one of the best places. And during the last 6 months of my mother's life, she just kept talking about how this is just a crummy place. They don't have any staff. They aren't doing a good job of taking care of me. And I'm going, but you said this was a great place. So either it really fell apart or she was using more of the services and now she wasn't quite so happy with it.
Yeah, I think over time, like I said, being short-staffed, a lot of times, I know the facility my mother is in, my sister is kind of in charge of the daily, well, the monthly meetings with them, and we have a whole list of grievances every month on stuff that used to happen, but now it's not happening.
Right.
So I think it's just over across the board in terms of care at these facilities.
Excellent. Well, we will make this a discussion of the whole call here, but let's
Me
move
too.
on to point number 9, which is really important: life events that may have occurred during the year.
Yes, and I kind of alluded to that in the previous answer, is really looking at this 12 months, what happened? Did I have a baby? You have to make adjustments to now saving for maybe education or increased life insurance, or how I'm going to, are you going to go back to work? Are you going to take a sabbatical? All of the things that occur if you have a new baby. Did you divorce? Of course, I deal with a lot of divorced women. Did that happen? So a lot of other things occur when you go through a divorce, and making adjustments, putting to credit on your own, getting your ex-spouse off of all of your accounts, changing your beneficiaries is important, because a lot of times people don't revisit that in the event that you have a life event. So adding children onto to policies or beneficiaries in a divorce, taking people off if you don't want that. You definitely don't want that nasty surprise if you have a life event like a divorce and you still had your ex on your retirement plans or your accounts, and then you disinherit somebody else. So you don't want that. So make sure you update those. Did you buy or sell a house? A lot of things happen in relationship to you buying and selling a house. I have a couple of clients that have went through that. Your tax situation changes a little bit. You're able to deduct a little bit more for moving expenses and the mortgage interest and all of those things as it relates to buying a house. Did you change jobs? Same thing. Did I get an increase in salary? Now I can put more money into my retirement account. Now my exemptions may be a little bit differently, and so making adjustments according to your kind of the life events of changing a job
Mhm.
from there. Um, did somebody pass away? Um, and then you may end up inheriting some stuff that you didn't expect to inherit it. I'm actually
Mhm.
working with a client now whose sister passed away recently due to cancer, and it was inevitable. She knew it was coming, but now she has a whole lot of things that she has to deal with, and it was just the two of them. So now she's the only living person in her family. So she's dealing with monies that was given to her sister from her mother, and now she has to take it. So it's a lot of important events that has happened for her in this year that we need to discuss on. Now I have beneficiary IRAs. Now I have to
Mhm.
start taking distributions out of that at some point. I have to sell property on her behalf, or I have a trust. So it's a lot going on. So a lot of the financial or the life events that occur, take an assessment of where you are with that and all the decisions that you do have to make during this time period um, of what happened to you, all of these different life events. Did I get divorced? Did I have a baby? Did I move? Did
Mhm.
I change a job? Was there a death in the family that now I have to deal with? So looking at all of the different life events that may have occurred for you throughout 2021 during this time of the year is where you want to take that assessment as well.
Oh, I think that's such an important thing. I'm going to tell you another little personal type of story, and that
Mhm.
is that um, I have a sister-in-law who died of COVID earlier this year. I
Mm,
think it was in February,
yes. I
and
remember.
her husband is still living, and he's a wonderful man. And Steve, my husband, has been very close to him over the years. And so they were talking, the two of them, the other day, and the widow, um,
Mhm.
or I guess is widower, because I'm talking about a man.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
he said that he's been so impressed with the wonderful care that one of his nieces is giving to him. So making sure that he, gets to doctor's appointments, making sure that he's got food in the house, all these
Yeah.
things that he maybe
Mhm.
hadn't thought that much about in the past. And so he said, I think I'm going to make her the executor of my estate. And
Okay.
Steve told me that afterward, and I'm going, oh, so I'm not sure that I think that being made the executor of someone's estate is a gift. Yeah, I think that's giving them a lot of work.
That's given a lot of work. Exactly. Not so much a gift
Right.
to make their executor. I know I had a friend who, one of her close friends really didn't have a whole lot of family, so she
Mhm.
ended up appointing her as executor. And unfortunately, her friend did pass away, and she said it was quite a bit of work
Mhm.
involved with ending her estate and dealing with that. So yeah, I'm not so sure if that's such a great gift to give somebody
Right.
with a lot of the tasks that you
I
have to
guess what he
do.
was saying is he just really respects her and her
Mhm.
capabilities,
Yes.
but I'm not sure when she might feel honored now, but when she starts having at the time in the future, when she starts finding
Hmm.
out what's all involved, I'm not sure
Yes.
that she's
I'm
going to
not so
think,
sure she's
yes,
going to be as appreciative during that
right,
time.
right. All right. I think we're at the 10th point on your list, which is one that I think I was shocked the first time you and I discussed this, but
Yeah.
the financially important ages. So we're going to talk about
Yes.
here we are in 2021. If we are this age or that age, what does this mean?
Exactly. Yeah, it's those what I call the magic numbers of
Hmm.
when you reach in your age. Of course, they did change the RMD age from 70 and a half to 72 with the recent tax act. So now when you turn 72, you must now take your required minimum distribution that we talked about a little bit earlier in our conversation from your IRAs, your employer retirement plans, if you have not taken any distributions out. So 72 is your magic age now for RMDs. Of course, if you turn 65 this year, we had talked a little bit about being eligible for Medicare. That's what if you turn 65 this year, you basically have the 3 months prior to your 65th birthday and also the 3 months after your 65th birthday to apply for Medicare. Um, if you are not, if you are not separate, if you are separated from your employer, if you're still working and you reach 65, then you don't have to do anything. You don't have to apply for Medicare until you come off a credible coverage from your employer plan. So and that's a misnomer that a lot of people, they get money, they get information in the mail. They hear 65 is the number, and then they go out and rush and they buy a bunch of Medicare Advantage plans or they sign up for Medicare. If you're still working and you plan on working, even until you're 67 or 68 or whatever, you don't have to apply for Medicare until you come off of credible coverage. And then you have basically an 8-month period to do that after you come off of credible coverage. So don't go rush and do it if you're still working. But if you're not working and you retire, 65 is your magic number for Medicare application. 62, if you turn 62, this is the first time that you're eligible to start taking Social Security. I never recommend people take Social Security 62 because it is a reduction, generally about a 25% reduction in your benefit if you take Social Security early at the first eligibility, which would be age 62. So you don't want to take it unless you definitely need it. I always recommend if you take an assessment, you retire, you need Social Security to fill in the gap, by all means, definitely take it at this point. But if you don't need it, wait until at least you're for retirement age. For most people, that's going to be 66 or 67. But if you need it at 62, 62 is the magic number that you're first eligible to take Social Security benefit. But just know that it is going to be a reduced amount. You have the 59 and a half magic number. So this is where you can start taking distributions out of your IRA without that nasty 10% early withdrawal penalty. And then you, of course, you still have to claim the distribution as income, but they waive the premium. Anything before 59 and a half, you have that 10% early withdrawal penalty because your retirement IRAs and your retirement money is for retirement. So they don't want you to touch it prior to at least age 59 and a half. Technically 60, but that's the magic number for that. So if you change, if you turn 59 and a half, you have access now to your IRA money, your your IRA money without penalty. If you turn 55 this year, you are allowed to take distributions from your 401k account without penalty, provided that you're no longer working for your employer. I think I mentioned in previous calls, and that it's if you retire earlier before 59 and a half, you have what they call an SEPP, which means a systematic periodic payment that you can take as long as you're separated from service. You can have access to your 401k between 55 and 59 and a half without that penalty. And then they would set it up in sequential equal periodic payments that you can do. So 55 could be that number. You do have to consult your employer to make sure that is set up appropriately, and they would allow you to do it. But 55 would be that number. Of course, if you turn 50 this year, I mentioned a little bit before, you are eligible for the catch-up contributions to your IRAs and also your qualified retirement plans through work, 401k, 403b, TSP, those sort of things. So if you reach 50, you're able to put in a little bit more as a catch-up contribution to those plans as well. So those are some of the magic numbers: 72, 65, 62, 59 and a half, 55, and 50. And that wasn't bingo, but those are the magic numbers for 2021 if you reached any of those ages, and what you need to do accordingly.
All right. Now, if you don't take Social Security early, because I know that I chose to not take mine early because I wanted it to maximize. I had a few bad quarters, so I was trying to do my best to make the number be as big as possible. But I think that I need you to clarify, anytime you pass the age 70, you aren't going to benefit any further from continuing to work and build up your social in terms of benefiting your Social Security.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, after 70, that's the maximum for delayed credits, that the latest you can take Social Security. So you're not going to get any bigger benefit. And then you do need to start taking it at age 70. So that is
Mhm,
another number for Social Security. 62 would be the earliest, 70
mhm.
would be the latest that you can take Social Security with delayed, basically delayed credits. So the number after your full retirement age, between your full retirement age and age 70, your delayed credits grow about 8% per year until you take it. But that's the
Mhm.
largest benefit that you're going to get would be age 70.
All right. Well, that is excellent. That's the end of our list. And I have a question that I'd like to
Mhm.
ask, but I see that we have a guest here on the screen, Jamie, and I'm not sure if Jamie knows, but she's welcome to ask any questions if she'd like to. So you have
Mhm.
any questions, Jamie? If you would like to ask Pam, she will answer you.
Yep. And take yourself on mute and answer and ask questions.
Hi there. So actually, I don't think I have any questions. I thought it was really informative though. But I would like to add that, for Pam, for your clients
Mhm.
to, or anyone listening for that matter, to also consider utilizing that IRS tax withholding calculator
Oh, yes.
as
Mhm.
frequently as possible during the year to help you gauge during the year. I mean, as we mentioned before, tax planning is not something you
Mhm.
do just one time at the end of the
Correct.
year. But I
Mhm.
Mhm.
appreciate it, but I don't have any questions. I thought it was very thorough. But thank you so much.
Oh,
Mhm.
thank you, Jamie. Now, Pam, I had something pop across my screen while we were talking. That's what
Mhm.
I'm gesturing here. And
Yes.
it said, totally unrelated to our discussion, and yet kind of related. It said
Mhm.
beef prices have risen 20% in this year.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I've been very disturbed with our current rate of inflation because if you just do it from the point of view of groceries, it
Mhm.
seems every week when I buy the groceries, I'm buying the same things, but I'm spending more than I used to ever spend, except for if it was a big holiday party that I was doing. So I
Mhm.
know this has to be impacting people, especially those people that are on fixed incomes. And I'm
Mhm.
curious what advice you might be offering to your clients about this level of inflation that we're experiencing.
Yeah, and from what I know, it's a temporary situation. A lot of it is due to supply chain issues that we're not getting the volume that we received before. So a lot of it has to deal with the supply chain. And I know a lot of people are using that as an excuse for what's going on. But what I've heard from economists and different economist reports that I follow is that we are in a temporary situation with inflation. And that's kind of comes back to, really taking an assessment of where you are with your budget and understanding where your money's going, especially with people on fixed income. Hopefully, and we've had this discussion before, Anne, is that you're not servicing debt
Mhm.
during this time. So before you retire, or is there a way to pay down your debt so you're not servicing debt on credit cards, because you do need that income on a month-to-month basis for in course increases like price increases, gas, food, things like
Mhm.
that. So instead of paying $200 a month towards your credit card debt, that could be used for to basically absorb some of the increased costs
Right.
that you may have with your expenses. So it's
Mhm.
really just taking assessment where you are with your budget, your spending, and then your debt. So I talked a little bit about the cash management portion in the beginning of our call. This is definitely a time period where you want to start taking a look on, are there things I can do trade-off? Can I spend less on certain things because now gas prices are up, or like you said, the price of beef is up 20%. Maybe you go back to chicken. I don't know, but
Well, I I'm not a big beef eater, but I'm not going to say I don't eat beef, So, but
yeah,
just the fact of the
exactly.
number. I
Hmm.
know another way to look at it is that every year for Thanksgiving, one of the nicer grocery store chains in the Midwest has a really nice program where you can uh, order in advance meals for the holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, et cetera. And then you go there and you pick up this big giant box, and it has everything that you ordered all in a box. And then it's not pre-cooked or anything. You still have to cook your turkey, but it's a nice program that they have where you can order it in advance and pay for it online, and then you just go get your box. So I decided to do that again this year for Thanksgiving, and I discussed with Steve which of their various half a dozen or more programs did we want to go with, and we picked a la carte. It turned out that by picking a la carte was cheaper than going with any of the meal packages, but he still pointed out that we were spending about 25% more than we paid last year for the same type of a meal. So that was
exactly,
and that's not a restaurant, that's at the grocery store.
And that's at the grocery store. Definitely food prices have increased. Year over year. A lot of the grocers, of course, during COVID, they had to downsize, they had to do things differently. We have the supply chain issue. So definitely prices are going up on a lot of different things. Gas, food are basic necessities in essence. But what I understand, this is a temporary, it's not a fast and fixed part of inflation. Of course, we have inflation year over year. We have a little bit of an increase this year that we weren't really expecting because of supply chain issues. But as you go along with your retirement plan and your financial plan, just know, of course, inflation is going to creep in, and your buying power, your purchasing power for your dollar is going to be affected by that.
That's a good thing. And I'm glad to know that you think that once the supply chain problems are worked out, that things will go back down a little bit.
Yeah, I think things will go back down. At least that's what economists are predicting.
Well, that's good. Is there anybody else that might be listening that has questions? Otherwise, we'll move along.
Yeah, but I think that's about it.
Okay. Well then, Pam, thanks as usual. It's been great talking to you. Thank you for being my guest and for providing us with this excellent year-end financial checklist. When it comes to things like RMDs and financially important ages, we really don't want to overlook these critical details, since missing a date can have such a long-term financial impact. And so I look forward to our next discussion, which will be in December, usually on a Thursday evening. But I'm not sure if you and I have agreed on a date yet. I think the fourth Thursday, which is our normal Thursday,
which
is
I believe
the 23rd or something.
Christmas,
So it's really close to Christmas. I don't know if that means that you and I think December 16th is better.
Yeah, I'm thinking that will be better, and then we'll come up with a topic, I'm sure.
Sure. All right. Well, finally, you've alluded to this a little bit, but since it is November, I want to remind everyone listening that you have until December 7th to finalize your Medicare decisions for 2022. And if you haven't done it already, it's not too late to schedule this year's flu shot and get your COVID booster shot. Because due to COVID, the medical community is reminding us that getting a flu shot is more important than ever. And it is covered by Medicare. So that's a good thing. If you're on Medicare, you get a free flu shot, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. I just got mine the beginning of the week, so I'm already done with that, and probably scheduled for my booster probably fairly soon. So I'll get both of those done.
Well, that's good. I think I know I got my booster. I can't quite remember if I got my flu shot or not, or if it's scheduled, but I haven't had it yet. So I think it's next week. But is there anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap up this call?
Nope. I mean, we hit all of the key points for your end of the year checklist. Again, as a reminder, I will be providing the financial report card. So I'll give that to you, Anne, then you can either attach it to your website and post it so people can download it, take an assessment of where you are financially, what happened well this year, what didn't go so well. And then, of course, as you start to plan for January, of course, we know that the January is the beginning of the year, and everybody puts their New Year's resolution that they're going to be better with their finances. So that would be a good time to take an assessment now. And then if you grade yourself on a low scale on your report card, you know what you need to make adjustments and changes for next year.
Good point. So grade yourself honestly, because that's the only way to make improvements.
Yes, exactly.
So thank you to all of the audience, people listening now and who will listen to the recording, for joining us for this great call with Pamela Sams. If you have any questions after the call, you can feel free to email Pamela@jacksonsams.com. That's JACKSONSAMS. You can go to our website at www.jacksonsams.com. And if you'd like to know more about the National Association of Baby Boomer Women, you can check out our website at www.nabbw.com. We have a forum at boomerwomenspeaks.com. Boomer Women Speak, that's singular. Nobody is really talking on the forum since Facebook became big, but there's still a lot of evergreen content that's on the Boomer Women Speak site, so it's worth taking a look at. And I think one of the most active parts of the organization right now is our Facebook page, which you can find at facebook.com/NABBW. So that's how you can, I will put the information that Pam is talking about up on the NABBW Facebook page, as well as on the NABBW website. So people who are wanting to get to that, that's where you're going to find it.
Awesome.
Thanks everyone for joining us tonight, and good night.
Thank you. Good night.